Hi everyone, I'm Jo from Elsie Grays and welcome back to part 3 on how to make an Etui box. In this episode, I will take you through the final steps of finishing off your Etui sewing box. In the last episode, we got to the point where we were attaching our gussets, so your box should look like this at the moment. The gussets are glued on 3 of your sides, and then these 3 are just on their own. So what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to make the little pockets and the little straps, and then how to put the whole box together. Okay, so we're going to start on our inner sides, and you will have 6 inner sides. They will be labelled. Now these are obviously slightly smaller than your outer sides. So we are going to glue baste some of your wadding onto the inner sides, and then we're going to glue our fabric to these. So we will just start with your spray glue and just pop a little bit on your cardboard and lay your wadding on top, and do that with all 6. Oops. And once your wadding has been attached to your cardboard, going to choose your fabric, and this is the background fabric here. And on the blue box, I'm going to use this gorgeous blue stripe. So just like we did last time, we just lay those out, and you should get 2 across there, and we're just going to cut 6 pieces to cover these. Okay, now that we've cut our 6 pieces of fabric, now just remember, if there's a pattern running a certain way, you want to make sure that, you know, like this one's got stripes, I want to make sure my stripes are going up and down. You can do them sideways, but I like mine up and down. So I'm just going to lay my piece of fabric wrong side up, lay my cardboard down, and I'm just going to glue that down, the sides down. And then what we'll do is we'll glue the sides down first, and then we'll come back and we'll do the top sections. So remember, I just use my paintbrush to glue that down, just so you're not pouring glue out of a bottle, because it can become quite messy. Now, I've got stripes here, and I just want to make sure that my stripes are straight up and down and they're not sort of all wobbly. So that's looking pretty good. So just pop a couple of pegs. And remember not to leave your pegs on too long, because they'll dry onto your piece. So we're going to do that on all 6. Okay, so ready for the next step. Once your sides are dry, we'll just pop your pegs off. Now we're going to glue these sides down, but we're going to just take out a little bit of that bulk. So I just cut a little triangle out of each of the corners. Can do a bit more on that one. Okay, so they'll look like that. Right, so this is where you get a little bit of glue on your fingers. I just pop a little bit of glue under there and just glue those little pieces down. So when you go to turn it over, it just makes this easier to fold it. So we're going to fold that like that, and fold again. this side, just sort of tuck that under and pull that down nice and tight, and then pop some pegs and push the peg right down there so it stays. And I'll just pop a couple there as well, just to hold those. Now this is where you get a little bit of glue, so you've got to be careful that you don't get the glue on the front here. Okay, so we'll just do that again. Just pop a little bit of glue under there and on the top. Now this one you want to pull really tight. So a little bit more glue. Now if you're in a cold climate and your glue is not drying, just pop your hairdryer on it and that will just heat it up, and it'll dry a bit quicker. Tuck that under there and pull that nice and tight. And push that peg right down on there, making sure that these are pulled. So this is nice and taut here. And we do that on the other 5. Like that. Okay, so once all your 6 sides are pegged and dried, you can take off your pegs. Now I just want to show you something. When you might have had your pegs on too long, and see how it's sort of got these little indentations from the pegs? Just take it over to your iron and just give it a little iron, and that will all come out. Don't know if you can see that blue against the grey. See how that's come up nice? Okay, so now we're going to do our pockets and straps. So choose your fabric for your straps and pockets, just like this one here and this one. So this is the fabric I'm going to choose to go with those. In your instructions, it'll have the measurements on what you need to cut to make your straps and pockets. So I'm going to do 4 straps and 2 pockets. So I'm just going to cut one of each for the minute. And then we'll go over to the iron and the sewing machine, and I'll show you how to sew those up. So that will be my pocket and that will be my strap. Okay, so take your fabric to the iron and we're just going to iron that in half. And then in half again. Same again. And then fold that over. And then we'll take this to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch along here. Okay, so we're just going to sew about 1/8 of an inch all the way along. Just keeping that seam down, and then we will thread the elastic through. Like that. Okay, so now we're going to thread the elastic through here. I just make a little point there and just put a safety pin in to help feed it through. And we're just going to pop it in there. All the sizes will be in your instructions of your kit, and your elastic is included in the kit. And of course it's not going to go in now, is it? So just, sometimes it goes in so easy, but now that we're filming it doesn't want to go in. So we're just going to feed that through, that elastic through. Oh, it's normally a lot easier than this. Okay. So feed that right, pull that right through. Now, I leave about 1 inch there. I just sew here. Just take it to your machine and just sew a little seam there. And the same here. Just bunch it up. And we'll just take that to the machine and just sew those ends. Okay, as you can see, I've popped a little stitch here and a little stitch there, and then I've just sort of moved so it ruffles, you know, evenly across. And now we're going to glue this onto here. So I sort of position it about 1 inch from the top, and we're going to turn it over. Now you do need to be quite liberal with your glue on this one, so I just pour straight from the bottle without getting glue everywhere. So I'm going to pull that one like that. We'll just get a peg to hold that on, and then we'll do the same on this side. And just check that it's nice and straight. And we'll peg that one and leave that to dry. So you can do 3 straps and 3 pockets. I tend to do 4 straps and 2 pockets. So while that one's drying, we'll now make the pocket. Okay, so we're now just going to make the pocket. And again, your measurements will be on your instruction sheet. So we're just going to fold over there and iron. Same again. So we've got the right side of the fabric down on the ironing board. And we're just going to take that to the machine and we're going to run a stitch along the bottom here. So just a stitch right on that edge. And there we are. And now we're going to feed the elastic through. Okay, so again, I'm just going to cut a little point on there. Put my safety pin in and feed that through. And you don't want to lose the other end, it's just there. So I leave about 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to run a little stitch down here and one on the other end. Okay, so we've got our elastic threaded through. We've popped a few stitches down each side. Now we're just going to gather this bottom up so it really sort of puffs out like a little pocket. Okay, so we're just going to do a little running stitch along the bottom. Nothing too fancy. It's just so we can gather it up. You're not going to see these stitches, so don't be too worried about what they look like. Okay, so just gather that just roughly like so. I'm just going to pop a little knot on the end here. And we'll get ready to glue that on. Okay, so we're just going to glue the pocket on. So come down about an inch or 3/4 of an inch. Turn that over and just sort of arrange your pocket around your piece. And we're just going to glue, I'm going to glue straight out of the bottle here because I want to put quite a bit of glue on these straps. So I pull that over and use a peg, and same again here. Now to glue all this down, this is where I use my paintbrush again, and I'm quite liberal with the glue. So just got to get all that fabric sort of bunched up down the bottom there. Okay. I pop the two sides down first, and then I just sort of gather this piece up here, the bottom of it here, just gather it up. Now you should be able to just pop some pegs on and it'll just gather itself. Use quite a few pegs down the bottom. Just going to see that excess glue there, I'm just going to wipe that off just with a paper towel or a wipe, and we'll let that dry. So you're going to make either 3 pockets and 3 straps, or I like to do 4 straps and 2 pockets. Okay, so while all those pieces are drying, you may as well get going on with your inner base, which is the very last piece that goes into your box. So we're just going to spray glue that piece on and then cut our fabric about 1 inch all the way around. So it's good to get. So now we're going to put our box together. I arrange my pieces out so they are correct. So I've got my 2 pockets opposite one another, and then I've got my 2 straps here. Okay, so the pieces that have the gussets glued to them, they're the ones we're going to glue first. So we can take these 3 out for the time being. So here's the fun bit. Lots of glue. So you'll need your glue and your tins for weights for this one, and lots of pegs. Okay, so I'm just going to, I'm not gluing right to that very edge because we're going to put a bit of pressure on it and we don't want it to sort of all ooze out. So I just sort of spread the glue around. And I know this seems like a lot of glue, but we're going to need it. Okay. So we're going to pop that down there. And I just want to show you how far from the top we are. And obviously we want to centre that. Okay, so we're going to pop some pegs on the top. Now we're just going to fold these gussets in for the time being, and now see, that's not centred too well. That's better. So we're just going to fold those gussets over and pop some pegs in. And we're going to do that on all three. So again, we're just going to glue around the piece. Now the good thing about PVA glue, it dries so hard, it's like a rock. I've had a couple of people ask me if I use craft glue. No, we don't. It doesn't last. It comes apart after a while. So PVA glue is fantastic for this project. Okay, so we just centre that. Now see, there's a little gap just here. Don't be worried about that, because that's going to sit up and you're going to have your inner base in there as well. So don't worry too much about that. Again, fold those gussets over and keep pegging. Now if you see any glue sort of oozing out the bottom, just wipe that up. We don't want glue leaking out everywhere. That'll mean that you've just put way too much glue in. So we'll do that to those three. Leave that to dry, and then we'll come back. So this is what your box should look like at the moment. Now to put a little bit of extra weight, you can just lay a tin of whatever you're using on there, and a little bit more sort of pressure helps that glue push down. And we'll leave that, I leave it about half an hour, and then I'll come back and do the rest. Okay, so the next step is your pieces should have dried by now. We're just going to move those cans out the way. And we'll just take off all these pegs. Now your gussets will get a little bit crumpled, but don't be too worried. They'll pop back out again. So your box should be looking a bit like this at the minute. Like that. Oops, a couple there. Okay, so we're now going to glue our gussets to these other pieces now. Now this is a little bit tricky, so you might need a couple of cans to sort of help you stand them up. So I'm going to work from here, and we'll just get a little bit of glue. So we're just going to glue along that gusset there. Just going to lift that up like that. So I'm going to pop a little weight there. I'm just going to lift that other layer of fabric up and just glue under there. And just glue that bit down there. Okay, and then we're going to do the same on this side here. So just make sure you don't get too much glue. See how I'm just using those to sort of stand up those heavier pieces. Again, we'll just pop a little bit of glue under there just to keep that seam down, and just down the bottom here. I mean, that will get glued down anyway, but okay, so now what we want to do is we want to fold this over. So again, we're just going to take the bulk out of there. Now, I didn't leave myself much room here. Okay, right, so we're just going to fold this edge here over and glue that down. I'm just going to tuck a little bit of glue in there. Now, the reason I fold these over is when you just look here, see how it's got a nice 45-degree fold there? I don't know if you can see it, but if you fold it straight, you may get little sort of fairy bits, you know, out the sides, and we don't. It just looks a lot neater, especially if you get that fold. Now it's not going to do it. That fold nice and neat there. So I'm just going to pop a peg on that. Same on this side. Tuck it under and fold it over. And that holds your gussets down. And just make sure that you pull that up tight so the outside of your box doesn't look sort of baggy. Okay, so then we're just going to go around the box and do each one. Okay, so the next step we're up to, so your box should be sort of looking a bit like this. I just put these tins behind just to sort of, when it's drying, there's no pull on these gussets that you've just glued in. So we can move those out of the way now, and then we can start gluing in our last pieces. Making sure that the glue's dried. Right, so you've got to be a bit of an octopus for the next bit. So I'm just going to come around the other side. Okay, so always start, so if I've done 4 straps and 2 pockets, I always start with my pocket, so I know it's going to be opposite that pocket. So I'm just going to stand my box up so that piece is flat. And we're just going to, now you have to do this sort of one bit at a time. So we need quite a bit of glue, but you don't want it oozing out the sides. So if there's a lot there, just sort of push it into the middle a bit. And there's a lot of glue on that bit. Okay. So we're just going to pop that in there. Making sure that your gusset seam is either side of your 2 pieces there, and that we're in the right spot there. Pop some pegs in. And then I'm going to put a weight on there. And sometimes what I do is I try and stack them up, so I've got a bit of weight. So we're just going to do that the same on all 3 sides. Now all your sides have been glued in, we just need to put in the inner base. So your box should look like that. And we're just going to pop a nice glue in the base. Just make sure that if you've got pockets, to pick up those pockets so they don't get caught under there. And again, just stack some weights on there for it to, so you just need that bit of weight to push that inner base down. The glue should grab pretty quickly, so now just notice there that see that little bit there is just not quite, there we go, that's better. Yeah, that's better. Okay, try again. And then leave that leave that in there to dry. Okay, now that you've got your inner base, the last bit is to feed your cord through the little loops. And we're nearly finished. And the little toggle in your kit, just pushing the cord through, and I just pop a couple of little knots at the end so it doesn't, if you pull your toggle up, that the cords don't fall through. So just a little knot on the end. Now it'll just take, I would just leave it overnight. It feels a little bit tight at the moment, but once you get your lid on and leave it to dry fully overnight, it's complete. Okay, just want to speak to you about the embellishments. On the bigger box, we did a little braid that was glued on afterwards, and it just covers up the joining line of the upper lid to your lid. Also, we have made a couple of tassels, and this is an embellishment that's, I think you can purchase from sort of any scrapbooking place or shop. And also inside this one, we did do eyelets instead of the little rings. They're a little bit trickier, but you could also do that for something a bit different. Our Etui Box kits are now available. Visit our website for all the options. Please see link below. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see all your finished boxes. Remember to tag Elsie Grays in with your completed projects. Also, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.